Hello my beautiful people, so welcome to the numerological portion of this reading. Don't skip this. This is going to give you a really important overview. This is going to give you a context of the energies, trends and themes that are likely to permeate the whole year. Now the way that I see all of these mystical arts, or as I like to call them, the spiritual sciences, astrology is one slice, the numerology is another slice, the tarot is another slice. All of these different slices eventually add up to a much richer textured understanding of what is unfolding over a period of time. So this year we are in a as always, I've got my trusty notes. This year we are in a universal year number 7. Now this is going to be a somewhat weirder year, I do have to say that. It's also going to be, so 7 energy is slower, it's deeper, it is a lot more introspective, and it's a number of analysis. This is the number of research. It's about picking things apart and getting to the root understanding, cause or issue of anything that you're presented with. Now this also has an element of penetration of mystery, and the number 7 has a lot to do with mystery in general. Now this number is actually ruled by Neptune, and as such the energies of transcendence and faith can definitely be at play over the course of this year. So what we'll also see here as well is mystical natural phenomena, along with potentially deception and deceit, and these are things that you need to definitely be aware of. Now in 2022 I told everybody to build a solid spiritual practice. There was a very important reason that I told people to do that work in 2022. It's because once you have that foundation, when you move into the energy in the year that represents faith, that represents religion, spirituality at its true core and essence, you already have a knowledge and an understanding of how your innate senses, how your inner map, your inner guidance or compass will actually speak to you. Effectively, what I asked you to do was really build your connection to the cosmos, and you get an understanding of what your voice of God actually sounds like on that internal level. Now, the reason I said this as well is because the spiritual wisdom and the internal compass and the intuition that follow are now here, right? We're here, we're basically in it, we're in 2023. Now, this is a year that will require slow, steady and methodical steps towards everything that you're trying to do or to grow. For a lot of people, this is going to be a slow going year, and the challenge that you have here is it's very much kind of, if you try to rush anything in a 7-year, the energy will burn you out, and you tend to find, like, you know, especially if you're having a personal year 7, you know, to a lesser degree, like if you're having, let's say, a personal year 1 or a personal year 5, obviously your personal cycle says a lot, but I'm telling you about the bigger energies, trends and themes here. What I'll also say is it would be unwise to try to force things this year. Like if you try to do something and consistently it stops working or it just doesn't go ahead, that is the message. Sometimes a no is the answer. Sometimes a not right now is also the answer. 7 is the number of the universal teacher and the universal student. In some way, shape or form, we are all going to be in the learning seat this year. This is whether it's learning about yourself, whether it's learning about others, whether it's learning about the world, a new subject matter, maybe, you know, taking some course or going back to school. This is a year for profound and deep learning, and in some way, shape or form, we are all more we're more acceptable and adaptable to things that we are learning or taking on board. What I will say as well, this might also be a year where you can learn some of the deeper secrets of any discipline that you're studying, providing you do the work. Now, 7 is the number of the Hermit. There are 7 Hermetic principles after all. It's the power of learning and the application of knowledge, and when knowledge is applied to anything, we get skill. So this could be a great year to brush up on your skills, to really improve whatever skills you have, whether this is running, mechanics, your psychic skills and awareness, which are highly favored this year, I might add, as is anything technical as well. because 7 energy has a need to learn every aspect of the craft rather than just like the surface. That's the other thing as well. Superficiality this year is just not going to cut it, unless you're in a personal year 3, in which case it will be slightly different. But outside of that, anything that is surface level or superficial this year, people will just be turned off by it. Now, I've also put here as well, this is a year for you to be honest and to be in your integrity in all that you do. And that's not to say that everybody is going to be in their integrity. In fact, because it is a universal year 7, the chances are there are going to be things and people that are putting out deception and lies and, you know, trying to hide things and sweep things under the carpet, which is why it's so important to have your inner guidance system and your inner compass and your intuition on point, which is why it's so important for you to have a spiritual practice, so that when the world starts to get rocky, you don't get rocky in here. Because when you get rocky in here, that's when you are really susceptible for people taking the piss. Okay, that being said, it's likely that a lot of things and people, especially some of the stuff on the wider world stage, is probably not going to be in its integrity. So it's important for you to really be mindful of your stuff. This is a year as well to lean into the analyzing energies of the year 7, so that whatever comes up, you can pick it apart. You can filter it through your spiritual system. You can filter it through your own intuition to say, okay, do I believe this, or is this some BS? All right. Try not to nitpick or become paranoid, because that is, you know, with everything, there's a fine line. Yes, be scrutinizing. Yes, analyze things. Don't take anything at face value or believe the first thing that you're told or sold. But also don't become sort of hypercritical and, you know, paranoid, basically. 1933 was a universal year 7. We saw the Great Depression, and interestingly enough, Uranus was also in Taurus at that time. So I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see something similar. You know, certainly when I did the 2022 videos, I did talk about the very end of 2022 and how rocky I believe it would get. What I will also say here as well, a characteristic of the 7 year is very much that larger governmental structures and societal norms tend to break down and are revealed to be lacking, so they perish. And sometimes they even go underground. 7 energy tends to see a lot of talk, advancement or development of nuclear powers and weapons, and a big part of this is because nuclear power is about getting to the heart of things. 7 energy is very much the same. It's about pulling the latent power or energy out of a place. Whatever the potential is what you dig into in a 7 year, or with the number of 7. Penetrative exploration, that's a 7 energy. Speaking of the unseen, 7 tends to be a lot about silent communication, telephony. You know, communications and communication devices tend to advance a lot in universal year 7s. So keep an eye on those things. If there's something that you think, you know what, maybe I'll invest in communications, especially if it's up and coming, if it's new, and if it has a more, you know, things like Wi-Fi, things like wireless phones, things like telephones, all of that stuff, they all happened in 7 years. This could also be a new way of interacting through the digital sphere that shows up at this time. Very possible. I think people will be looking for a lot more truth this year. Doesn't mean we're getting it from the wider world stage, and so a lot of people might just say, you know what, we're not getting what we want, so let's create something where truth is the paramount, where truth and honesty are the things that, you know, that are really the currency. Television and film tend to produce cult classics with some truly weird and wonderful, fantastic offerings. Alice in Wonderland, The Day the Earth Stood Still, both of these came out in 7 years. And when you think about both of those films, they're a bit trippy. That could kind of be one of the characteristics of a 7 year. So what I've also put here as well is whether it is or isn't part of some great deception or, you know, genuine connection with, you know, alien beings, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if this year we saw some kind of revelation about being galactic, you know, about being in contact with galactic or dimensional beings. Very possible. In a lot of ways, our faith, on a personal and global scale is going to be put to the test this year. And this is one of the reasons I said having a solid spiritual practice now, because in order to have a spiritual practice, you have to have some kind of faith in something that is bigger than yourself, something that has more power or more agency than you. And this isn't about relinquishing your own power or agency. It's about saying there's no way all of this beautiful, gritty, messy, bloody, sweaty, teary, and loving and wonderful and joyous, there's no way that all of this can just be random, all right? That's one of my beliefs, doesn't have to be yours. Deductive powers, mental clarity, and critical thinking are going to be advantageous beyond what we usually ascribe to them. So usually we say, you know, clarity of mind and, you know, being really sure and being really clear about stuff and using your critical thinking. Those are good things that tend to produce good results. This year, those things are going to be vital necessities to getting through the year with your sanity intact. Trust me for this. There is another reason it's going to be seriously important to be spiritually powerful and pure. When your spirit is strong and when you are truly connected to your soul and you know what your own how your own intuition speaks to you, you really are hard to fuck with and hard to manipulate. All right. That being said, if you're watching this video at this moment in time when I put them out, you've still got a couple of months of the year left to start building that spiritual practice, to start getting clear on how your intuition or your gut senses speak to you. It's time to be self-focused, it's time to be self-directed, and it's time to be self-sustained. These are all energies of the 7 year. Believe it or not, the 7 year or 7 energy is not adverse because it's a very lonely number that requires time and space to decompress and to, you know, get rid of other people's stuff. 7 energy spends a lot of time alone. Don't be afraid to do that. And more importantly, don't be afraid to be self-focused, self-sustained, and self-directed. Yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, things that bring awareness to your body or bring you into the present are going to be highly favored this year. One thing that I have looked into as well that I found really interesting is because of the energy of rhythm and cycle and pattern, lunar rituals and a solid lunar practice will be really, really important for the 7 years. So if this is something that you're already doing, you're already ahead of the game, and you will notice that this year you kind of hit the ground running. If you're psychically, cyclically, and rhythmically sensitive, tapping into the cycles of the celestial bodies this year will do you the world of good. All right, that's the sun and the moon, but especially the moon. Soul retrieval, ancestor practices, and shamanic practices are going to come really into their own this year. Find somebody who's done the work. I'm not talking about a hack or a charlatan, you know, somebody that talks a good game because they, you know, wear all the right stuff and, you know, they pretend to go into a trance. I'm talking about somebody that's done the deep work. And you'll know, especially if your own stuff is functioning the way that it should, you will know who's done the work and who can be a real guide to you this year. Guides, teachers, mentors, coaches, all of these people are going to do very well in 2023. But if you're not in your integrity, you'll be found out very, very quickly. What I will also say as well is, especially because Jupiter is moving further through Aries this year, so we could see potentially a few cults, cult-like movements coming through. Discernment is going to be a big part of your life this year, my friends. For health and well-being, look to the spiritual roots and causes of things. Look into older or energetic healing methodologies and avenues. So things like Reiki, biodynamic energy, body hacking, what else? You know, homeopathy, herbology. Oh gosh, I'm just trying to think of the other things as well. Like, and this isn't to say let those things override proper medical care, because that has its, you know, roots as well. And believe it or not, 7 energy is very scientific. It just picks everything apart, but there is a realization that sometimes the best thing or the thing that you need is actually the more spiritual or esoteric or natural. 7 energy is deep and it's complex. Don't treat symptoms, look for the causes and approach the roots. That's the message this year. 7 energy being so deep and complex and obviously mentally stimulating. 7 is a very mental energy. Magic is a mental art. The first Hermetic principle, 7, the number, you know, there's 7 Hermetic principles. The 7 is the number of the Hermit, the universal student and teacher. The first Hermetic principle of the universal law states that all is mind, or rather the principle of mentalism. All right, get this right, get this strong. Don't allow this to be overridden or prodded and pushed and poked by anything or anyone outside of yourself this year, which is why, I can't say it enough, your spiritual practice will carry you through. Having a solid one this year is going to be vital. This energy activates, stirs and imposes and impregnates the mind. Cultivate it for yourself or it will be done for you. All right. This year's energies can allow you to connect, to see connections where maybe nobody else is able to draw them. It'll allow you to see things. We'll probably see things in the shadows and the corridors of power this year that we didn't see before. This is kind of the moment where the curtain comes down and we see the wizard behind the, you know, doing all of that. This also might give us an ability to blend things or bring things together that maybe don't necessarily usually mix. So we could be seeing a lot of that. I believe margarine and such products where you take two things and smash them together were formed in 7 years. So the energy of synthesis is a big part of 7 energy, the energy of creation, but through synthesis or potentially synthetics will come through this year. 7 by its very nature is very much alone. Take time away from others. I'm talking even your partner, even your kids, even your pets. Have some time, even if it's just an hour out of a month. Have some time where you are just you on your own, where you can just be, where you don't have to be anything, where your label and your titles and your status and all of that is stripped away and it really is just you. That's a very important task for this year. Have some time alone. You'll be surprised at how your inner high priestess starts to speak. Go on a personal journey or a quest. Retreat from work, get away from the daily grind, get away from life and responsibilities, even if it's just for a day. I've booked myself a log cabin. 7 is also the number of scandals, secrets, conspiracies and paranoia, and can also be about falls from grace. I wouldn't be surprised if we see all of the above over the course of 2023. So one way to avoid problems this year is to be honest. When you don't know something, when you don't have the idea, the answer to an idea or a concept or a problem or a question or an issue, or somebody asks you a question, if you don't know, just say so. This year, be in your honesty, be in your integrity, because this year, the more you're in those things, the more people are going to connect with you, because honesty and integrity this year will be more of a currency than probably most other things. 7 energy is inward. It's an inward journeying year. It's self-contained, and you're being invited, no matter what or who you are, to map your own inner world. All right, and you can only really do that if you spend enough time alone. It's important. This year, allow flow. Do the work of acceptance, cultivating faith in a higher plan and wisdom, and the wisdom of divine intelligences. Whatever you perceive them to be, however they speak to you, that's not what I'm talking about. That part of it really isn't important. What's important is that you make time to build your own faith, path, and spiritual practice. Learn to let things develop naturally and simply observe them as you do. Now, this is important. The ability to stand back and watch, wait, and listen is how secrets, it's how we learn secrets. It's how we see what's actually going on. And this year, many secrets are going to be, revealed, especially deep, profound, and magical ones. Astrologers, mystics, tarot readers, seers, numerologists are all practiced in the art of observation, which is a very 7 energy. They watch and they wait, and that patient, passive action of sitting back and just observing what's taking place, or looking at the symbols, or looking at the cards and letting the energies blend with your own, feeling the number of the energy of the number. That passive action is what yields results and blessings, and the rewards are knowledge, wisdom, and a deeper understanding. And 7 is also understanding is also a very 7 energy. The way we reach understanding is by acceptance, is just to stand back and observe. Sometimes things will reveal themselves to you in that way. This year can truly teach you how to yield or work magic, and I'm talking in the real sense, if you have the patience and the staying power. That's going to be the key, right? The 7 year is very much kind of like high priestess energy. She doesn't just give you the manual and say, oh, there you go, this is how you do it. She will give you thoughts, impressions, gut instincts, dreams, allegories and metaphors, and you have to do the work of piecing it together yourself. Be careful not to overanalyze or get stuck in analysis paralysis. Sometimes as well, this year, if something presents to you and you think, oh no, that's too simple, it can't be that, that's when you know you're over analyzing or you're nitpicking. All right, be careful of that. We ignore it and we look to go on to something else when the answer was right in front of us, but we ignored it because it was too simple. This year, the world and its people are your mirror. Now, that's always true, but this year it's more true than ever. All right, so what you're getting from the world and its people, if you love it, if you loathe it, if you want more of it or less of it, that is what you are projecting out into the world. All right, now I'm sorry to say, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's not fair, or da, 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 da. I'm not interested. All right, this year the world and its people are your mirror. If you're not liking your experience, check what you're broadcasting, because that's where you're going to be getting more of what you're putting out into the world. Magic, law of attraction, manifesting, application of will. All of these things that I've mentioned are a form of magic. And this year you can learn some really powerful secrets with this stuff, providing you do the work. All of these and a working knowledge of them should be a vital part of your studies this year. And even if it's not necessarily for manifesting money or, the dream house or whatever, it's showing you the mechanics of how what you're broadcasting is creating more of what you're experiencing. This year, learn to be present, truly present in yourself, in your body, in your mind, in your soul. Listen to what's being said in conversations. When you've got important stuff going on, don't just pay attention to the words that are being used. Listen to the energy in the room. The body this year is your messenger, so listen to what it's telling you. When it's telling you, I don't like this place, oh, look at this, I've turned up to a family function and I've just come out in a massive rash and my eyes are starting to swell, or what, my asthma feels like it's getting worse. Pack up your stuff and leave. You don't have to be rude about it, but your body is telling you, I don't want to be here. This is not where I should be right now. Listen to your body. And it's the same the other way around. Like, oh my gosh, I met this person and we've been talking, and whenever I'm with them, like, I can breathe better and I feel happier and I feel like I've got more energy. Listen to your body. I advise you only to float off to other dimensions if you are trained and practice, which is why working with a good shaman, healer, ancestor worker or worshipper, or somebody that does those kinds of practices. If you want to get into that stuff this year and do soul retrieval, etc., it's highly favored, but do it with somebody that's done the work so that you have a solid anchor. Learn to be present, cultivate spiritual practice, can't say it enough. But really, this is a great year because 7 energy, I've talked about analysis, I've talked about learning and students and all the rest of it. It's a very psychic energy. It's a very mystical energy. This is the year where you could really tap into and learn the powers that work the world, that make everything in this wonderful universe work. Psychic ability, mediumship, prophetic dreams, all of these kinds of things are going to be heightened this year, which is why if you have that spiritual practice, your intuition and how it speaks to you, whether it's clairvoyance, clairaudience, prophetic dreams, whether it's empathy, whatever your gifts are, they will be coming through loud and clear because you're filtering them through a system of some kind. And then finally, that way you can be discerning about what you're presented with. 2022 was a year of aesthetics and beauty. 2023 is a year that is about quality. All right, so you know what? Oh, look, you've got like 100 gold coins, but they're all a mess, and the stamp and the da-da-da-da-da-da. I've got 3 gold coins, but they are the most perfect gold coins. They're crisp, they look good. This is a really bad example, but I hope it illustrates the point. Imagination, fantasy, music, spirituality, creativity, television, film are all mediums that are going to boom in 2023 because they provide that hit of escapism, because they show us beauty, but we can feel something from it. It emotes a feeling from within us, and it taps us into the energy of transcending the present moment. Science, religion, spirituality and metaphysics are all going to be gaining speed over the course of this year. Remember I said that. Whether it's clothing, food, leisure, nobody really cares about fancy anymore. They care about the quality. So as an example, well, look at, I've got Prada, this, that and the other. Okay, great. But look at this coat that I've got that is made of like the finest, most impervious, you know, needs to be cleaned once a year kind of material. It's the quality versus the quantity this year that really matters. Also, edutainment is going to be a big industry this year. So predictions I'm making for this year: uniforms and uniformity and its practicality, communism by any other name, will be pushed and sold to us very hard potentially. Whether you're for it or against it, I'm just letting you know. The renaming of things tends to happen a lot in the 7 energies as well. So Meta or Facebook were ahead of the curve on this one, and it cost them because they chose the wrong time to rebrand. So this year we're probably going to see things rebranded, renamed, repackaged, remodeled, zhuzhed up and given a little sort of like, oh no, it's this now, which, you know, might not necessarily be a bad thing, but if you're trying to rebrand a business or rebrand yourself or change something about you and do a shiny and new kind of thing, 7 years are good for that. Likely to see one or several major corporations or oligarchs rename their businesses or brands. Immigration restrictions and removals of people will be a short-lived exacerbation. I think for a while that's going to be like a and then it will start to sort of dissolve a bit more. We're also, I think this is potential that we're going to see 2 major assassination attempts this year. I really hope that I'm wrong, or we might see a world leader forcibly removed from power, and when we do, I think we're going to be really surprised at the reason for this person's removal. Earthquakes and earth changes are potential. Changes of fuel sources will begin this year. I know it seems really early, but I think there's going to be a massive drive towards this thing over the course of this year. There will be more oil and gas, and if you plan to make money from them, this would probably be the last year to do so. All right, so as prices continue to do their thing, start looking elsewhere. My money would personally be on the Hyperloop, greener, cleaner, easier transport for large amounts of people. Anything like that is going to be up and coming, and you're getting ahead of the curve if you're investing in that stuff now in 2023, before it becomes prominent. But like I said, if you're doing the whole oil, gas, precious metals kind of stuff, you can squeeze the last exquisite drops of wealth out of that stuff this year. And then finally, while this year is a lot about this year that could be deemed as quite sort of scary or intense, if you get that spiritual practice, if you use your intuition and discernment, magical things can happen for you. And if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to do the work, to do the research, to really delve into things in deep, powerful ways, to think outside the box, to find new resources and sources of everything, whilst learning to trust yourself like never before, truly magical things can happen for you this year. So if you're ready and willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work, this year can be truly